So here is a length that I'm going to use for the round bit, and it's 6.5 inches wide and a little bit over 12 inches. That just gives it a bit of play at the top. Here is the top part, and you need a pudding bowl because that's what we use as our base. The diameter of this appears to be about 8 inches. So you'll need a round thing of 8 inches diameter and about a 24-inch, 6.5-inch strip. And at this stage we're going to put our 24-inch strips into the overlocker and just overlock them right sides together at the ends. So I'm going to do a whole lot at once. What we've got now is we've got a whole bunch of these things that are right sides together, wrong sides out, and we've got their appropriate lids. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these together. First of all, I'm going to take small snips in the top because I want to be able to make it go around the circle. Okay, so I've made a whole bunch of little snips at the top here like this. Don't know if you can see it on this fabric, but there are little snips all the way around so that I can separate it out. And now I'm going to make sure that my fabric is the right side up. So this is the bottom, so I want the bottoms of the birds here and the bottom of this. And I'm going to snip off this end because it gets me into trouble later on. And I'm going to start using clips and clipping it around. Now I don't have enough clips for all the ones that I want to do, so I'm also using these sorts of clips as well as my clover clips. So I'm just going to put a big one at the middle because I should have a pleat at the end. I'm just going to clip them all the way around. This. I want this bit to be left over, so I'm going to take it right up to the back and the middle like that, and I'm going to release this clip that I had putting it in place, and I'm going to put a big pleat in there. I want that pleat because at the bottom here it'll give a little bit more to go around the person's head, and I'll put elastic and a tie there so if it's too much they can tuck it in, but this pleat just gives me a little bit more playroom for people who've got a slightly bigger head. So I'm going to put a pleat in there, and I've now got it put together. This is the step where we're going to sew around the clipped parts of the hat. Now I start here just after the side seam which has got the pleat in it. That way, if I've collected any fabric as I go around and I need to make the pleat bigger, I'm at the right place to do that. And I want my pleat at the back because I don't want it in the middle of the front. So I'm just going to go around here and sew around here, working with the two fabrics like this, making sure that I've got them tucked up nicely. Right, now here I am at the end. Now I have got a little bit of extra fabric. I'm just going to tuck that up in my pleat here and continue going around to meet at the beginning. And here we go, and it's done. With the wrong side facing forward, iron in a little bit for about 2 inches on either side of the main seam at the back. I use this because at the end of the production line I'm going to turn this inside out and want to sew two pieces together. If it's already ironed under, it's a heck of a lot easier to pull those sides together and not be trying to later on once I've got the elastic on. After the ironing, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut myself a piece of elastic. Now I got this elastic on the last day that Spotlight was open. I dashed in and bought some more elastic, which I'm running out of. I need about 2 or 3 inches of elastic. If you haven't got it this thickness, any thickness I think would work. So I'm going to cut myself 2 or 3 inches here, probably 3. And I'm going to sew it into both the lining hat and the top hat over this line here. So I'm going to have more of the elastic on this side of the seam because I'm going to stretch it as I go. It doesn't matter so much what thread I've got up at the top of the sewing machine because it's the bobbin thread that's going to show. So I'm going to put in 2 blues, but I'm not so worried about the blue at the top. So I'm going to sew the elastic in. First of all, I'm going to put several holding stitches. I'm just going to go back a bit to hold it in. And now I'm going to start pulling the elastic firm. So I'm going to hold this elastic firm and pull this through. Stretching the elastic. I'm just going to back up and give it a bit more of a hold where it was. So I'm now going to attach the ribbons to what I have deemed to be the outside of the cap. It's reversible, so this could easily be the outside of the cap, but I'm going to attach ribbons to one side. I bought these tapes and they're quite firm, they're not fraying very easily, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zigzag at the end that's going to be on the outside, like that. Give that a bit of a trim. And then I'm going to attach it using the same zigzag stitch, and I'm going to make that go pretty much over where the elastic is, but a bit further out, so that people can adjust the hat to their own width. So I'm going to put it on here. It's further out than where the elastic fits, but there is enough to tie with it. And here we go. And that's how I attach the ribbons. When I've done both ribbons, I'm then ready to put the 2 parts of the hat together and do the overlocking around the tops. This is the penultimate step of putting the surgical cap together, where I run the bottoms of these 2 caps right sides together around with the overlocker. I think if you don't have an overlocker, a zigzag would probably do, or any old seam which you finish off properly. Now, because both of these fabrics I found at second-hand shops, they're different weights and a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't really care about that. These are surgical caps that are keeping nurses and midwives' heads covered in this time of COVID-19 because the virus can live on your hair. So we're really just trying to make sure that people have a head covering, not too much about whether the fabrics are the right weight or not. I did try to do some earlier with a poplin, which was had a lot of synthetic in it, which made it easy to wash and dry rather than cotton. But I'm afraid I've run out of that synthetic fabric. Okay, now I've been around most of this cap now. I'm actually going to go and do a little bit more on this end, just because I want it a bit further up. And I'll just do that now. Must have skipped a bit there. Okay, so now I've got this part done, I'm going to turn my cap inside out. So I think one of these might be a very light decorating fabric, and I'm pretty sure the other one is a poplin or something rather. Anyway, I think they'll look quite nice together. And so here is the reversible surgical cap nearly finished. The last thing I have to do is to sew these 2 bits together. Now you can see why with that pressing it becomes an incredibly easy job just to sew these bits together, because they're already pressed into place. I'm actually going to change my thread to make it a slightly darker thread, keep the bottom one the same but make it a slightly darker thread on the top. I'm going to sew these bits together. Now you can see I've got a bit here that's a bit more than this one is, and I've got a bit here on this one that's a bit more than that one is. I'm just going to tuck them in and use them as a pleat. I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to start here. I've changed this thread to a slightly darker one, and I'm just going to I've put a couple of stay stitches in on the zigzag, and now I'm going to change it to a straight stitch. It to be a bit more difficult going over both of the seams. If I've got them lined up, it's a good sign that it's struggling a bit with that. And here we go. And I now have, apart from Mr. Quality Control and thread snipper, I now have a finished surgical cap. Now the finished surgical cap works a bit like this. You can put it on your head and then you can turn this bit up so you can see the underneath, and I quite liked that silver with the blue. And that's my finished surgical cap.